Community Heart Media. Your voice, your heart, your opportunity. Welcome to tonight's show.
Hey guys, how are we going here? It's 98.9 Northwest FM, Community Heart Radio, and have we got some sound tonight, Julio?
Yep. Can you hear nice and clear there, Mark?
All clear, yep. Well, we've got the amazing Rebecca Crawley as our special guest tonight, and tonight's going to be all things social enterprise, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about social enterprise and hearing from Beck a bit about her journey. But why don't we start off with you, Beck? Just introduce yourself. Who is Rebecca Crawley?
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me on tonight. That's a really big question, a difficult one to ask. So hopefully Rebecca Crawley isn't just a static person. I like to try lots of different things and sort of be dynamic in what we do. So I'm not actually sure that I can give a definition of who I am at any point of time. At the moment, I'm currently a mother and a visitor to my father, and family's my important thing right now. But in terms of, what I'm interested in is really just trying to find ways to make the world a better place, I suppose, like we all are.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, well, you certainly do that, Beck. I tell you what, you're one of the leading people with social enterprise, and you've got a whole range of things that we're going to talk about tonight. I'm really looking forward to understanding, what you're involved in. But how did it all happen? How did you get this heart for social enterprise? Tell us about your journey to get there.
I think I've been very fortunate in my life to be born into a family that actually cares for others. So I've had good experiences with my parents who have always been involved in community, and given me that understanding that we all need to be working together for each other to be able to get where we need to go. So I suppose that's probably where it comes from. I sort of went to universities and studied business and property and worked as a journalist for a little while and then as a property valuer. And then when our children were young, my husband and I decided that we wanted to have an adventure and learn a little bit more about, who we are as ourselves and also who we are as a nation. So we ended up going up to the Northern Territory and working in a remote Aboriginal community. And I think we thought we understood community until we actually went and lived in an Aboriginal First Nations community, which gave us a deeper understanding about what that is and how we connect to each other and how we connect to the land that we're on and the environment that we are, and also the spirituality of where we are as well.
How did you transition from that bit to, studying business, working as a journalist, and you and your husband suddenly going, right, this is what we want to do? Was it a big decision? Was it a bit of a process?
My mum had worked as a teacher at Borroloola, and my husband and I had both visited her and said we'd like to do that ourselves one day. And he was a teacher, so that was an easy transition for him. For me, with my skill set, working as a property valuer, I didn't really have much to offer, but I ended up working at the school and worked in the language production centre there, which sort of helped out with, what I'd been doing as far as journalism. So I sort of found a way in there. And as we went on for a little bit further, I did a dip ed and became a teacher myself. And so it was just a lot easier to find a place in the community there. But we really just threw the hat in the ring, and we decided whatever job my husband got first was where we were going to go. So it was just luck of the draw, and I think we were really lucky where we ended up.
Hey, Beck, tell us about those early days. I mean, how did it go? I mean, did you ever feel like pulling out? It was too hard, or was there experiences that really made you think, what have we done here?
I think sometimes when you are in a community which has such a strong focus on family and how you're connected to each other. When you're living there away from the rest of your family, it makes you question about what you're doing as well. We were lucky enough that we went as a family unit ourselves, but we didn't have our extended family there. So sometimes you sort of look at that and say, well, what are we doing here? We're leaving who we are and not really connecting to our culture and who we are either. And I think that is something as Australians we are not good at tuning into. So I suppose that was one of the things that really made us question about who we are ourselves and then think about what are we doing here. But we took it to be, for us, it was really about learning as much as we could. So in terms of two worlds, I think we got more out of the experience than anyone that we interacted with did.
I bet. Would have been such an interesting experience coming from. So, are you originally from Melbourne, Australia? Is it your husband?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
I grew up in Gippsland, and my husband grew up in northeast Victoria. So we're both from regional areas, which made it a little bit easier. I think if we were pure city kids, it might have been even harder. But we'd been used to sort of being in the bush and that type of thing, so that wasn't too difficult. But definitely an eye opener, but a really good opportunity to look at how we see things from our own lens, and then sort of really making sure that we don't put our own values too much on everything that we are experiencing.
Really good.
So, Beck, you lived in an Indigenous community, and obviously, well, not obviously, but I gather you're not Indigenous. How was that being not Indigenous, living amongst Indigenous people? How did that go for you? How did it go for them?
I think we were really lucky that we were welcomed. A lot of these communities have a lot of people that come and go, and so they are sometimes a bit reticent to be able to make true connections because they're not sure how long these outsiders are going to last for. But we were lucky with the people that we've met, and we've continued these relationships, obviously, now since 2003, so 20 years now. And I think that makes it a big difference too, just knowing that we're all just people. And if you really do want a relationship, you have to make sure that it is a relationship and it's not just going in there and looking as an outsider. So we really committed ourselves to being part of the community as much as we could. And by doing that, we were really embraced and sort of adopted by different families, and have a big network, which can also mean that you have more responsibility too. So, going into these places and really throwing yourself in there means that it's not just a one-way ticket. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
So 2003, 20 years ago, you went and worked in an Indigenous community, you and your husband. And what sort of community? So you sort of touched on a wee bit about the work that it involved, but how long were you there, and what unfolded from that?
We lived there for 2 years, and then we went back. I was offered a job at Phillip Island, and my husband said that would be a really good idea at the time. He thought that'd be nice for me to go and work, and he could look after the children. And so we went and did that. And then after a few years of doing that, he was offered another job back in the community to head the secondary school there that they were starting at. So I thought that was also going to be a good idea for him to go and take that job. So we're very good at accepting jobs for each other. And after that, coming back again the second time, really did cement that relationship. When we left there again after 2 years, some of the elders asked us to take a group of young men with us. So we returned to Victoria with 4 extra boys on top of our 3 boys that we already had in our 3-bedroom house, and started to commence a program, which was a leadership program for the community in Wadair. So that started off with 4 boys, and they embarked on some TAFE programs, and also got involved in the community, played football and those sort of things. And we're really embraced by the community. back in Bright in Victoria, where we returned to, where we actually had our house before we had moved originally in 2003.
So, Beck, look, it's one thing for you and Justin to think, look, I want to do this stuff. I want to live in community with Indigenous people. I want to live them in my house. But what about your kids? How'd they cope with the whole lifestyle of what you guys did?
I think because my twins were 2 and my eldest son was 4 when we went there. So it had become a part of who they were as well. So when we lived in the community, we had an open door. So we always had lots of different people coming in and out. Sometimes the meals were stretched to a couple of things on a plate if we had a lot of people visiting at meal times. And after a while, it became a very popular time to visit us. And so they were sort of used to that. And that's funny that you should say that, Mark, because recently my children are now 24 and 23. And recently we spoke to them about this, and they said they wouldn't change a thing. And actually, my eldest son now works back up in the community in Wadair, and his partner as well. Another one of my sons just returned. He's from his uni break, running a school holiday program up there as well. So it's part of who they are too.
So good. Talk to us about that community program that you established a community leadership program. Is that what you were saying earlier?
That's right. So we started it was sort of basically a walking in two worlds and allowing young people to experience life outside the community so they could make choices about what they wanted for their future. So they left the warm climates of the Northern Territory and then came down to northeast Victoria into the mountains in Bright. And the first group came in August. So it was absolutely freezing, and they came out to play football and just they were welcomed in the community in Bright straight away. And since then, we've trialled lots of different programs. We've had young people go to school. Bright P12 College was very supportive of the young people there. We had 2 houses where we had boys living in one and girls living in another. We worked with the local Indigenous group up there and started teaching the local language, the Dudara language as well at the school, with the help from some of these students, because a lot of these, all of them from Wadair, the community in Wadair, they all speak their own language. So they all speak Murrin Patha, or the language from the area that they come from. And
hey, Beck, this is sounding quite amazing. Julio here is pretty bored with his life. He hasn't got much going on. What do you think, Julio? Would you want to join in and help Beck up there and get involved?
I'm not sure what I could do up there, to be quite honest. So maybe Rebecca could organise about what actually can be done if you're the volunteer.
Well, that's an interesting question too. When we've in a small town, it's often hard to find volunteers. Volunteers are always spread across everywhere. So anyone who volunteers virtually volunteers for every organisation that needs a volunteer. So Julio, if you came up there, I'm sure that we would find something for you to do.
What would you get him doing, Beck? Would you get him at Doomoo Cafe or out in the grounds? Or he's actually got a few skills, Julio. What sort of things would a guy like Julio do? What sort of qualities do you think he'd need to have, or skills?
For what? Well, part of the program that we do is really exposing our young people to anything that happens in the world outside what they know. So basically, anyone who comes in there is beneficial to what we do, to our program. So they just offering whatever, all those skills that Julio has would be an eye-opener. Speaking on a radio...
I think we found something for you, Julio. I think this would be good for you, mate, because you are a bit lost at the moment. And what do you think, Julio?
At the moment, yes, I am lost. I'm not sure where I should volunteer at anything at the moment. So see how we go with that one.
Julio, you look like you'd be a good cook, though.
Me?
He is. He is a good cook.
I like cooking. I I hold an engineering degree, so that holds it as well. So
we're always looking for new buildings. We've got in the cafe there, we started up a program where we opened up some of the space to the local food co-op, and we also were running a Vic Health program where different community members would come in and cook with the young people and teach them their cultures and the food that they cook from their different cultures as well, which was great. We had some really interesting meals and some really great conversations with that, and that was open to the public as well for them to come in. So everyone's got some great skills that we can use. If you like jewelry making, the girls love that.
Don't forget, everyone, we're on 98.9 Northwest FM. It's Community Heart Radio, and we want to hear your questions. So if you've got any questions for Beck, make sure you ask them. She's a mountain of information, had a lot of great experience, one of the leading social entrepreneurs in Australia and probably across the world. She goes to a lot of world conferences. But tell us, what is social enterprise?
That's a really good question, Mark.
That's a really good question, and I think we're really establishing what that is in different parts of the world, depending on the way people do business and the reasons that people do business as well. So social enterprise is really about doing business with a purpose. So it's really intentionally trading or conducting their business to tackle social problems or environmental problems, or to train and to encourage people into employment and give opportunities for further employment as well, which I think, Mark, you know that fairly well. And also basically to improve communities, similar to a community heart radio station as well. So I think that sometimes we try and be too narrow with our definition of what that can be, and if we open it up a little bit more, a lot of people might find that they can be involved in this in some capacity and then expand that as they get deeper into it.
So you opened up the social enterprise in Bright, is that right, Rebecca? With the cafe, and like you touched on earlier, Vic Health and everything like that.
Yeah, so we opened up. What we found is that with education, there was good opportunities for them to learn about the wider world, but there wasn't really pathways to employment. So we, being in a tourist town, we decided that we would open up a training cafe, and probably in terms of a social enterprise, the enterprise bit wasn't as wonderful, given that there were about 25 different places to buy coffee in Bright at that time. So in terms of competition, we were fairly well saturated. But the reason for starting a cafe was that there are so many skills that a young person can learn in the hospitality field. So we've hung in there. We started that in 2015 and hung in through COVID and everything else. We started it, I started with a friend of mine who actually knew something about hospitality, which I didn't know, and she was fantastic. But then she needed to spend more time with her family, and my sister from the community in Wadair, she came down and took over as the major shareholder. And then just recently, we've actually gifted it to the community organisation that we're working with. So now I'm just a director, and it's
never
already,
say this to director.
and already
like that.
Yeah, it's already doing so much better since I've stepped out of the reins. But
yeah, wow.
yes, our main
and Beck,
purpose.
just tell us about your tell us a bit about your India project.
Well, again, it's just really looking at opportunities that arise and sort of extending the young people that we work with when they're ready to be extended. So a lot of the young people then have done the 10-week training program that we we do at Dumu Cafe, we're looking at really opportunities for them to set up their own businesses. So we've partnered with a social enterprise university in India called Centurion University that runs a lot of skills-based certificates and university degrees and postgraduate and undergraduate courses. And we've just completed our first cohort. Went to India for 6 months, and they did a textiles and apparel course. And they've just come back and are embarking on some ideas for what they would like to do as entrepreneurs. So as part of that, we're partnering with another organisation called Black Duck, who is a majority Aboriginal organisation, to make sure that the businesses that they set up are suitable to what they need for their cultural requirements, and they are able to be successful in a way that suits their lifestyle.
Vic, how do you come up with these ideas? Like you just roll up very simply, yep, the India project with this, this partnership and this organisation. That's amazing. How do you
I'm very lucky that I run into some really incredible people at the right time.
Right time.
Well, you've met Julio. Julio, you've met him tonight. He's incredible. He's going to be your number one volunteer.
There you go.
So what do you think about this operation, Julio? What question would you have to ask Beck?
I got a million questions, especially when you're starting off business like cafes. That's hard work to start off with, because that's you're going, like you said, you're going against other competition straight away, and you're moving stock around and getting your head around all this sort of getting around just the normal running of the business. But altogether with that, you got to motivate staff. How do you find the motivation to move into this industry, especially with Aboriginal culture involved?
I think that has been interesting. And as you mentioned, hospitality is not something that you can just walk into, which I found out the hard way. And so what I've done is just relied on the expertise of others. So generally, anyone who comes to work at the cafe who has a good idea runs with it. And that's sort of how we've worked. So we've had quite a few iterations of what the cafe looks like. And they've all been wonderful. They've all been different. And that's sort of how we've worked, basically. And basically, every idea is a good idea until it doesn't work, and then we just learn from it. So that's basically how we've run. We generally like to start small and then build on with what works. So we don't go too big too quickly, because we know that most of the stuff we're building is on sand, and we need to be really careful about how we lay those foundations.
Yeah.
I love that model, Beck. I love it. I always say to Mark, plan. He's and small steps. Where does your husband fit into all of this in your family? Are they part of that bigger picture too? Offering, brainstorming some ideas, working with the community.
Well, actually, my husband is the chief executive officer of the organisation, so he's the rock, and he's the one who always smiles when I come up with another idea and says no to begin with. And then bit by bit, he sometimes gets dragged along.
I love it.
But then he really takes it on. And once he takes it on, it yeah.
So, Beck, tell us about the latest little project that you shared with your husband one day, and he probably said, "No, Beck, that's not a good idea." Tell us a bit about that journey.
Are you talking about the fish farm?
Yeah, talking about the little fish farm that you have just bought.
So at the end of our driveway is the most beautiful property, which is a trout and salmon farm, which I've been driving past on and off for about 25 years.
Wow.
And went on the market about 4 years ago, and every time, once it went on the market, I looked a little bit closer at it every time I drove past as well. And yes, you're right, Mark. It was a bad idea. It was a really bad idea right from the beginning. There's no way that we could do anything like that. How are we going to do that? And I keep on circling back to my mum, the one who inspired us to actually go and work in an Aboriginal community in the first place. So she'd recently sold her business, and a lady in her 70s isn't ready to retire yet. And she grew up in Northeast Victoria as well. So part of that is a bit of her home territory.
Mm.
And so I managed to get her excited about it. So about to start a new venture. We'll have just started it. So it's nearly 2 weeks in, and I'm going to business with my mum. And my husband, who said, okay, well, you're going to have to do this on your own. You know, I've got a full-time job that I need to do and all those sort of things. Justin's absolutely hooked already. So every morning we're going down and feeding the fish, and he's the first one up, and sometimes they'll go off and do it without me. I mean, it's only been less than 2 weeks, but yeah, he's getting excited by it now. He also said, well, we can't do another thing with, you know, the Indigenous organisation that we're working with. We're already doing too many things there. I'm not sure how we can't really connect the two, and already he's thinking about ideas how we can do that as well. So lots of potential for doing something great there. And my mum and I are both really excited about food security and sustainable agriculture and aquaculture. So at the moment, we're just bursting with ideas, and probably most of them won't even work, but we're at the excitement stage.
I was just going to ask you, what's your vision for the trout and aqua farm? I come from New Zealand, and so we have and grew up with a private lake where I grew up too. And so you have and actually fish coming out of the water, swans and ducks and geese and lots of different animals. And so I can only but imagine what a gorgeous setting it is. But what's your vision? Yeah.
Oh gosh, so many things. So we, looking at culture centres with lots of partnerships, really, culture centres, aquaponics, slow food, picnics, at looking at sustainable feed, food security for our region, looking at miles, also sharing and working with other primary producers as well to create a sort of a market within our area too. So there's so many things to think about. And after becoming addicted to social enterprise, we've got the enterprise now, and now we really need to look at what sort of social impact we can have from doing that. So it's like working backwards from what we were doing before. So last time we sort of had the impact that we wanted to achieve, but then and built the business around it. And this time we have the business, and we need to build the social impact around that. So it's going to be interesting to look at it go the other way.
And Beck, I'm thinking about impact. And Julio, I've got a question for you, mate. Do you like eating the trout or the salmon?
Both are good. So rainbow trout's my favourite out of the two, so I stick to that one. So it doesn't go astray.
And we've got these beautiful golden trout up there as well. Have you heard about those?
Yeah, yes, I have. They're very sweet, apparently. The meat's very sweet.
Yeah, they're an albino rainbow trout, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. And the best thing about if you're going trout fishing, if you're going fishing at the fish farm, you can see them actually jump onto you.
Wow.
So it's really nice for young kids and that sort of thing. And I'm still getting so excited by the squeals of excitement that other people are experiencing and catch their fish. So it's nice to interact in that sort of way.
Nice.
Yeah, beautiful environment. And so good for you. And particularly when you speak about that food security as well, Beck, such an open space wherever you want to delve into, whatever you want to do.
but also being really aware of what our environment can sustain as well. So it's a fine line between, you know, what the social issues, but also the environmental issues too, and making sure we give everything the same respect.
Yeah,
exactly.
A lot of people, Kelly, are probably thinking, gee, Beck, how do you run a fish farm, a project in India, a director of a cafe, a director of a youth service that operates out of Northern Territory? I don't know. What do you think, Kel? I mean, that's a lot of things on her list, isn't it?
Well, I was just thinking to myself, it sounds very familiar to someone I know, actually, where he seems to operate a number of different, he owns cafes and universities, a youth bus, other social enterprises, has a community radio station, and another large.
Yeah, but I'm wondering what Beck's secret is. I'm wondering what's your secret, Beck,
What
to be able
advice
to
would you
do
give
all
Beck
that?
to when you may? Do you ever think you spread yourself too thin?
Oh, absolutely.
When you stop?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Always spread myself too thin. And but it is like you mentioned, there are other people around who are good to learn from, and about how to do things and not to do things, and being able to.
Do you ever think to yourself, what would I do differently? You know, so say, for example, if you're looking at fundraising, do you think, right, I'm going to tackle something differently, or I've got all these enterprises, I actually need to put a project manager in, for example? Anything like that?
Absolutely. And, you know, it sounds like I'm doing a lot, but we've got incredible people that I work with, and they do most of it. So I'm just a small part of these projects, really. We've got incredible people, and we've got so many young people now who've come through our program that are doing these projects as well. So yeah, it seems like a lot when you say it like that, if it was one person, but I'm not. It's definitely not one person. There's so many people that are involved in this, and they're the ones that really make it their own and make it a lot better than anything that I could actually think that it could be as well.
Do you have any testimonies in terms of, you know, someone or group or community that you have worked with where you know, they may have been unemployed, for example, or have wanted to be really making a big difference in one of the social enterprises?
Sorry, can you ask that question again? I've lost that one.
Do you have any testimonies, like any sort of journeys that you can experience from someone who has been part of one of the social enterprises?
Other social enterprises that you're talking about?
No, ones that you have run or are currently running. That you've had some big woohoo moments.
Oh, absolutely, all the time. So we've had. Well, actually, I learn a lot from others, really, as well. And I think, we've got some. It's the big woohoo moments are actually, they are there, but it's more the little woohoo moments that make you actually feel like you're doing something. Sometimes the big things are really great, but they don't last. It's the little slow woohoos that keep on going, and they're the things that you also need to look out for. Otherwise, you can sometimes think that you're not achieving what you want to. But it's those little ones that sort of build slowly, and then you realize that all of a sudden you haven't noticed that this person has just blossomed into someone you never even thought that they might be, and they also teach. I learn so much from them, so they're probably more the woohoos as well, in that I think that I'm actually doing something for them, but actually they're doing a lot more for me than what I think that I'm doing as well. So they're probably the main woohoo moments. And it's really, I think once you get into the social enterprise too, it's actually also seeing that community that comes with that. How so many people in social enterprise, really, it's all about the collaboration too. So
absolutely.
In other businesses, you just don't have that. Whereas if we're all sometimes competing for the same funding, if it's that type of thing, we would rather collaborate than compete. And I feel like that's just a way of being that fits in with these First Nation communities that we work with as well. So there's a lot of synergies that makes it easy for the young people that we work with to be able to sort of be involved with that too.
I work in engagement, and one of the core factors we always look at is that collaboration. But the other thing we look at is, we call it lessons learned. You know, when you're going through evaluation and feedback and anything that you think, actually, I would have done this differently, or gone about it differently.
We do a lot of that.
Yeah.
Often. Yeah. Virtually every day.
Yeah.
But and I think that's,
you're very, very humble, Beck. You're very humble. You guys are doing such a wonderful job, and I've had the privilege of meeting some of your young people that have gone from Wadair down to Bright and then going back. I mean, it's just been fantastic to see the impact your programs had. Tell us a bit about that impact, because I've seen it before my own eyes, people's lives being changed and then impacting back up there when they go back to community.
Yeah, we've been involved with the first two young people from the community who have completed school outside of community and got an ATAR and have been accepted into university, which hasn't happened in the community before. And now they're still also, while they're at university or getting ready for university, are also engaging with our organisation too. So it's a little bit like the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave. So these young people keep on being involved with what we're involved in. And we started off, as I said, really small with four young men who came down here. And after being connected with these young people and giving them opportunities to see what choices they can make in their own lives, and it's sort of giving them the confidence to be able to go in directions that they want to go in, and also be employable. We were offered we've offered the youth services contract back in the community as well. So after coming out of the community to be able to walk in both worlds, then we've come back into the community. We run now youth services, sport and rec, and school attendance service there, as well as after school activities and school holiday programs. And about 80% or 90% of our staff are all community members. So employing, I think, about 35 community members now. And so that's really, I suppose, has been the big impact that we have
so that's
had.
a testimony right there. 35, employing 35 staff. That's amazing.
And actually, when I say we employ them, I'm employed by them. So I'm not employing them. They're my managers, and the board are from the community. And so yeah, it's I'm being now guided by, I mean, I come up with some ideas and some suggestions, but they're the ones who make the decisions about in which direction we go.
Yeah, incredible story, don't you think, Kel? And how's your understanding now of social enterprise, Kelly? Do you think you understand it fully? You got all the answers?
Well, I'd say better, but I definitely wouldn't say. And as I said, in terms of engagement, you never say you've got all the answers. No, it's always empowerment, collaboration, ongoing learning.
And it's such a great way, Beck, isn't it, to help people and help communities?
Yeah. Well, I think, our world is based on business, and if we can do business for good, then we're killing two birds with the one stone. So really, that's basically what it is. It's just maximizing impact while also maximising profits, if you boil it down. We haven't really done a great job of maximising profits, but we've been able to break even and to be able to pay our staff, and that's really the most important thing for us. And our stakeholders are our customers, and the people. And what we've been able to do, sometimes you have byproducts of what you're setting out to achieve. And I think one of the things that we have also achieved is creating a greater understanding of First Nations people within the Bright community as well. And,
so important.
I mean, at the moment, we've got lots of young people who have been to school in Bright are actually working on the school holiday program in Wadair as well at the moment. So we also have a lot of young people from Bright going back the other way too. So there's a really, really, really deep connection between the communities.
So good. So good.
Fantastic. It's so great having Bec Crawley from Bright and all sorts of other places, and the owner of the Harrietville, is it Harrietville? Is that what you say, Bec? Fish farm, trout farm?
It's called, at the moment, it's called the Mountain Fresh Trout and Salmon Farm, but rebranding might be part of the deal, so just have to watch the space.
Well, it's definitely worth visiting, Julio, when you're going past up there, past Bright, up to Harrietville. Just before you get to Harrietville on the left, Julio, you should drop off and see if you catch yourself one of those trout or salmon that you love eating, mate.
And I'm the chief apprentice fish gutter at the moment, so you can come and see me in action.
Okay, that'll be good. There you go.
What about you, Kelly? Do you like eating trout and salmon and catching it at fish farms?
I do actually, yes. I'm not going to go into the experience I've had, but I do, yes.
The Community Heart team, Bec, might come up and do a bit of fishing.
That would be great, and it can be a traumatic experience sometimes when you actually see how your fish and how your food comes to you before it comes to the table. And I think that's something that is good for people to experience, but maybe it's not what everyone wants to see. But we always say thank you to the fish before we hit them over the head.
Yeah. Well, look, we're speaking about getting hit over the head, or we're getting inspired by you, Bec. We're going to come to the Community Heart Radio Top 5, and I'm really looking forward to your top 5 lessons or thoughts from your life, and our listeners are going to really enjoy this. And if you want to ask Bec a question, you've still got time to do it. But Bec, what would be your number one tip that you've got for our top 5 tonight, or your number one insight from your journey?
Number one, not sure that I can rank them, but I'll give you them in no particular order. But I think make mistakes is in the top 5. Be willing just to make mistakes and learn from them, and or eventually learn from them. Maybe make them a couple more times and then learn. I've made a lot of.
It's a good one, Bec, because I don't think we want to make mistakes. Not many people want to make mistakes. So you're telling us your number one tip is to make mistakes. So I quite like that one. What do you think, Kel?
Oh, as I said earlier, it's part of like what we call an engagement, that learning circle. So it's always saying, right, these are the objectives, but what mistakes have we made and what lessons can we learn from this? So that you're really open, you're saying we don't have to be perfect, but what can we learn? We've made these mistakes.
Yeah. We've all made a lot of mistakes in life and a lot of mistakes in our social enterprises. Normally costs us a lot of money. But anyway, that's a good one. Let's start off making mistakes. What's the second one?
Say yes.
Say yes.
Say yes, yep. And I'd probably say
I like that one.
But say yes, and you might not. Oh, might not be able to do it immediately, but you might be able to get there eventually. So, but say yes, but tell them what your limitations are at the same time. So
I was just going to say, Beck, what is there a clause in there? Do you say yes to X amount of social enterprises, or say yes, but you have some limitations?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that basically say yes and then work out how to get there. And it doesn't mean that you always have to go there on your own.
Okay.
Yeah, that is true.
That's one for Mark.
Are you saying yes, mate? Are you saying?
Yeah, well, we could repeat
Did we
that.
get a yes out of you, Julio?
What's that? I was just saying that, say yes is good, but Mark has to remember that as well. That's a limitation.
Limitation, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
Well, I think you've now got Julio as a volunteer, Beck, because he's just said yes.
I'm not sure
All
that
right, what's number 3?
I think number 3 is to trust people. So first go for trust and work on that. So that I think that's part of the saying yes as well, and also if you trust people, that means you can also make mistakes with them too. So
Question there, Beg. What about with people? I'm not sure how you or Julio or Mark feel about this, but I've noticed post-COVID, trust is varied now. How do you naturally trust, or is it about rebuilding that trust, do you think?
Well, I think I'm not sure. I think the trust is still there. I just think that there's a few barriers in front of it, but I think that the trust is still there, and we just need to be able. That's what I think. Look for that trust rather than look for the distrust.
Good point.
So I think in some ways it's interesting that COVID has had that effect, because I think that at the beginning of COVID we were beginning to go in the opposite direction. So
yeah,
to trust a little bit more. So I just think that we need to keep that open, and trust builds trust as well. So and I suppose that is the next one, which fits into this, is also, I suppose, just be kind, because and that's not just to others but also to yourself, which all sort of ties in, I think, with each other. I'm not really saying anything profound here. I think I'm just all going all around in the same circle. But
you're also reflecting who you are, Beck, because I think that one of being kind and considerate and understanding, that reflects who you are. In a lot of these projects, you really do. You're not you achieve a lot. You say yes a lot, but you also got great understanding and great care and support of others around you. So these are values and tips you bring definitely reflect the person you are and how you work with people.
Well, actually, Mark, the last one I suppose I'm thinking about is actually learn from those and listen to others. And I think that's really been how I've been quite lucky, because I've met some wonderful people who have taught me a lot, and just by listening to them, I've just changed the way that I do things a lot. So even though they might not be mistakes sometimes, it's really just unlearning what I already know by learning from others. And sometimes it's not actually mistakes, but it might just be unlearning too. And really listening, I think, is listen more than you speak, which is a hard thing when you're on a radio interview. But but the old 2 ears and 1 mouth thing, I think, is really something that we should take with us. And I've been lucky to have such interesting people to listen to in my life.
Yeah, I think the number 6, how does number 6 go for you with your partnership with your husband? I mean, it's been a very significant part of your journey. What's been your secret success of continuing that partnership and achieving so much as a couple and working together so closely? What's your insight success? How have you managed that?
Oh, that's definitely my number 1. But I think it's really, the more time we spend together, the better we are as well. We were just talking about that the other day, and it's really we've been together for a long time now, so you really do just understand the other person, and because we really do care for each other and we do trust each other, then we always know that we are doing the best that we can for each other and for everyone that we work with.
And I guess that feeds into many of your top 5, Beck, where you trust each other. You've got that open communication, and by the sounds of it, you can bounce ideas off each other and share and go, right, I've got this idea, say yes. And then he comes along that journey eventually, even.
And really, he's taught me all of those things anyway. He's probably the kindest person that I've ever met. So all of those top 5 things are probably everything that I've learned from him.
Oh, that's so sweet. There you go, Mark.
Well, I love your top 5. Kelly, they're a very special top 5 for people that want to lead, people that want to make a difference, people that want to work with others. You couldn't get a better top 5 than that, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And very heartfelt too. Very, can tell.
All right, Julio, why don't you remind us about the top 5 that Beck shared again?
Okay, number 1, make mistakes and be willing to learn. Number 2, say yes, but remember your limitations.
Mark, can that be your number 1?
Yes. Number 3, trust people. Number 4, be kind to others and yourself. And number 5, learn from those willing to share and listen to others.
Yeah, very special, Beck. Thanks for sharing those.
My pleasure. There's I need to remember them all the time as well. but they are the things that sort of get me going.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's been very special having you on Community Heart Radio 98.9 Northwest Ev on a Wednesday night, Beck, and you're probably just about to go to India or whatever or somewhere, go catch some fish or something. But it's just been so great having you on the radio tonight on our show. Julio, I think we've been very blessed, and it's been very special to have Beck with us tonight, don't you think?
It has been. It's been a fantastic show. Thanks very much, Beck, for having the time. It's been really good to hear your insights.
Thank you. It's been lovely to talk with you.
It's great. Kelly, any final comments from yourself?
Yeah, I think it's really important things that you've touched on, Beck, just in terms of the bigger picture and the difference that you've made with the community. You know, you've spoken so much in depth about where you first started and just the doors are open for many people. So I think it's important that we take that time to reflect and go, what difference do we want to make in the world and the impact that we can have as well.
It's good. And Julio, you've said yes to Beck, so you're going up there to help with the fish farm. What's other reflections you've got from tonight?
That I'm looking forward to going fishing and eating some trout.
Julio, you can make some good Chilean fish there. I know your cooking is good, so you go.
I'm really going to try some ceviche recipes if you have any.
I got lots.
Great. Right, I think the volunteering.
So, any closing comments as we wind up the show on social enterprise and how much a difference that makes in the lives of many people and many communities around Australia, but also around the world? Because you've been, you've seen a few different ones around the world. Beck, any final sort of comments you've got for us?
I just think that anyone in business really needs to be thinking about how they interact with their community and thinking about the place that they're based and who they work with. And it's just a way that we can move forward to look after each other. And it's once you go down that track, you really don't want to go down any other track.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. Once you get involved in social enterprise, you never look.
No, I think I've mentioned before, it becomes a little bit addictive and you're looking for more and more ways that you can sort of make some impact. I think really when it comes down to it, the impact you have is on yourself.
But it's not because it's not addictive because you make a lot of money. Just remind us again, why is it addictive?
it's addictive because you can actually see some positive changes happening in the world, and you feel like you're part of something bigger.
That's a good way of it.
Well, Beck Crawley, it's just been fantastic having you on 98.9 Northwest FM. We're going to end the show now, but it's just been really good talking about social enterprise, changing the world. And look, get on to Beck. Check out her thing on LinkedIn or Tharami Youth, Doomoo Cafe, the Trout Farm. Drop in there and eat a bit of fish. Or see Beck in India, wherever you want to see her. She's around everywhere for you to catch up. All right?
There you go. See you later.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Tune in every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. or watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and follow us on LinkedIn and other social media.